It's crazy, your pec literally looks the same, bro. That's insane.
Walk into any gym and you'll see the same scene play out for decades. 20-somethings grinding out max effort sets, chasing personal records, chasing the pump, chasing the burn. Fast forward 30 years and most of them are gone. Not dead, just gone from training entirely, sidelined by shoulders that don't lift overhead anymore, knees that lock up on stairs, backs that gave out somewhere around year 15. Meanwhile, a small handful of people are still training in their 60s, 70s, even 80s, moving with the same strength and control they had decades earlier. What separates the two groups isn't genetics, and it isn't luck. It's one training decision made on almost every single set that most people get backwards. Here's something that's going to sound completely wrong at first. The instinct to train to failure, to grind out that last impossible rep until your form collapses and your joints absorb the difference, is the single biggest reason people stop being able to train at all. It feels productive because it's brutal. It feels like proof you worked hard, but hard and sustainable aren't the same thing.
Serious, bro. I gotta give you a lift. Bro, you're nuts on my head, bro.
I can't help. And the trick that actually builds strength that lasts a lifetime isn't a new exercise, a new machine, or a new supplement. It's a single adjustment to how close you let yourself get to your limit. And once you understand why it works, you'll never train the same way again. And here's the part that sounds impossible. This one trick doesn't just protect your joints. Research shows it can build just as much muscle and strength as training to failure, sometimes more, while keeping you capable of training for decades instead of years. I'll explain exactly why that happens. But first, do you know what percentage of your max effort actually triggers the same muscle growth as an all-out failure set? The number's gonna surprise you. Stay with me. Think about what happens in your body during a true failure set. Your form breaks down on the final reps because your target muscle can no longer produce enough force, so your body recruits whatever it can to finish the rep. Your spine takes over for your glutes, your shoulders shrug up to bail out your triceps, your knees cave in to rescue a dying quad. That compensation is exactly where injuries come from, and it's happening on the very reps you think are the most important ones. The set feels the most productive right when it's doing the most damage. Now here's what the research actually shows about building strength that lasts. The primary driver of long-term progress isn't how close to failure you go on any single set. It's accumulated quality volume over time, tracked and nudged upward week after week, decade after week, decade, without ever paying the tax of a wrecked joint. And the tool that makes this possible has a name: reps in reserve. Reps in reserve simply means stopping a set while you could still do 2 or 3 more clean reps with good form. Not because you're being soft, because that's the point where your target muscle is still doing the work and your joints and stabilizers haven't been forced to bail you out. Studies comparing sets taken to failure against sets stopped 2 to 3 reps short have found nearly identical muscle growth over time, with dramatically lower injury rates and far better recovery between sessions. The failure set isn't producing meaningfully better results, it's producing the same results with a much bigger bill attached. Here's how you actually apply it. Pick any exercise, a squat, a row, a push-up, doesn't matter. As you move through the set, pay attention to bar speed and form on every single rep. The moment a rep noticeably slows down, or your elbows start flaring, or your lower back starts rounding, or your knees start shifting, that's your signal. You have 2 to 3 quality reps left in the tank at that point. Stop there, rack the weight, walk away, and let that be the set. No pushing through the sticking point. No grinding out an ugly final rep because the plan said 5 reps and you're only at 4. This single habit changes everything about how your body responds to training. Your central nervous system recovers faster because it was never pushed to a true limit. Your connective tissue, tendons, and ligaments, which adapt far slower than muscle does, never gets asked to compensate for a fatigued prime mover. And because you're recovering faster, you can train more frequently, which means more total quality volume accumulated over months and years. That's the actual engine of long-term strength. Not how hard any single set felt, but how many quality sets you can string together across a lifetime without a setback forcing you to stop. Remember that number I mentioned at the start? The percentage of your max effort that triggers real growth? Research shows that sets stopped at around 2 reps in reserve, roughly 85 to 90% effort, produce nearly the same hypertrophy signal as an all-out failure set. You are leaving almost nothing on the table in terms of results while removing almost all of the risk. That gap between perceived effort and actual necessary effort is where most people's careers quietly end. There's a second piece to this that most people miss entirely, and it's just as important as the reps in reserve itself. You have to actually track it, not guess at it, not feel it out inconsistently from session to session. Write down your reps in reserve estimate for every working set. Over a few weeks, a pattern shows up. You'll notice certain exercises where you consistently underestimate your reserve and could safely push a little closer. You'll notice others, usually anything loading your spine or shoulders in a vulnerable position, where you consistently overestimate it and need to back off further than you think. That feedback loop is what turns a vague idea into a precise, repeatable system. If you're finding value in this, do me a favor and hit subscribe. I've got more training principles coming that'll change how long you're able to do this. Now here's one most people get completely wrong once they hear about reps in reserve. They assume it means training soft, staying comfortable, never pushing hard. That's not it at all. The trick isn't about avoiding effort. It's about avoiding the specific rep range where form collapses and joints take over for muscle. You can still train with real intensity, real fatigue, real difficulty. You're simply drawing the line 1 or 2 reps earlier than instinct tells you to, at the exact point where the science shows you stop getting meaningfully more muscle and start getting meaningfully more risk. This matters even more as you get older, though it works at any age. Recovery capacity declines over the decades, whether you like it or not. Tendons and ligaments become slower to adapt and more prone to overuse injury. A joint that could absorb an occasional failure set at 25 often can't absorb the same abuse at 45 or 55 without a lingering issue that costs you months of training. Reps in reserve isn't a concession to age. It's a principle that, applied from the start, is the reason some people are still training heavy in their 70s, while their gym buddies quietly disappeared decades earlier. Here's exactly how to build this into your training, starting with your very next session. Before you start a working set, decide on your target reps and commit to stopping 2 clean reps short of technical failure, not muscular failure, technical failure, the point where form starts to break down. Rate every set immediately afterward on a 0 to 5 reps in reserve scale and write the number down next to your weight in reps.
Get past this position, unless you do this and turn side on.
Oh.
If you consistently hit 2 or more reps in reserve for 2 sessions in a row on an exercise, add a small amount of weight next time. If you're consistently landing at 0 or 1, hold the weight steady or even pull back slightly. That's the entire system. No max effort testing, no ego lifts, no grinding through pain to hit a number on a piece of paper. Apply this across every major movement pattern in your training, your pulling, your pressing, your squatting pattern, your hip hinge, and you have a complete framework that builds real strength for as long as you're willing to keep training. It works whether you're using barbells, dumbbells, machines, or just your own body weight. The exercise selection matters far less than most people think. This one decision, made correctly on every set, matters far more. Train consistently, 3 to 5 sessions per week is plenty. Track your reps in reserve honestly, not optimistically. Let the small, boring, unglamorous consistency of leaving a couple of reps in the tank do what decades of grinding to failure never could. Do this for a year and your joints will thank you. Do it for a decade and you'll still be training while most people your age have long since stopped. Do it for a lifetime and that's exactly the point. Start where you are, leave a couple in the tank. The strength will take care of itself,